what do we know as to what's happening right now in the Strait?
Yeah, interesting as well, listening to the president saying that he's not going to be held hostage by Iran. He did say that he thought things were going along well. I think everyone thought about 5 or 6 hours ago. Since then, the Iranians have appeared to attack 2 shipping vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. One tanker just off the coast of Oman, so very close to the Strait of Hormuz, said it was 2 IRGC Iranian gunboats came at it and didn't talk to it on the radio, literally opened fire on this tanker. The crew and the vessel are reported safe. And then about 2 hours later, in the same area, an unidentified projectile hit a container ship. Some of the containers damaged. No fire, no environmental damage. But this comes just hours after the Iranians said they were reversing their opening of the Strait of Hormuz. We've heard a lot of pushback from hardliners in Iran saying that that move essentially was too soft and that they are not responding well to the fact that President Trump said that the U.S. blockade would remain in place. Iran accuses the United States here of not following through on its obligations on the ceasefire. So we've gone from a point of early this morning where things looked like they were moving along well, talks getting close, people talking about potential of talks here in Islamabad in a couple of days. Iranians upping the ante, and I think perhaps that gets to what the president said. He's not going to be held hostage, and he said he's expecting an update on the situation later today.
Nick, how much of this has to do with the situation in Lebanon with Israel, or are these events concentrated based on concerns over the Strait itself?
Absolutely. The Iranians opening the Strait of Hormuz was based on the fact that they saw President Trump and the Pakistani negotiators, the field marshal here, Munir, get this ceasefire in Lebanon. That was a big part of moving things forward. But the Iranians, they then did a quid pro quo and opened the Strait of Hormuz because, of course, they wanted that ceasefire in Lebanon. They thought there'd be a positive response from the White House. That's what they're saying. What we've witnessed is a negative response in Iran to President Trump's response. We've even seen internal tensions in Iran between the hardliners and the moderates. The moderates are the ones who were in the negotiations. The hardliners have been saying that, had been threatening to reclose the Strait of Hormuz. They've gone ahead and done that. Their gunboats appear to be attacking maritime vessels, tankers, container ships close to the Strait of Hormuz. So the two things are interlinked, but we're now back to the bigger issue here of U.S.-Iran tensions. Do we the talks, or does this latest escalation at the Strait of Hormuz, does it scuttle all of that?
The president said that we'll know more later today, and I imagine that will be the case. Nic Robertson in Islamabad, thank you for that report.
This latest escalation could mean big issues for oil and gas prices. So let's discuss now with Yahoo finance correspondent Ben Worshkel. Ben, good morning to you. Obviously, the impact, the consequence of these Iranian gunboats firing on a tanker go beyond that exchange. It's the chilling, as Nick said, of any willingness of any of the other companies to send their vessels through. Fit this piece of the puzzle into what has been clear as mud over the last 24 hours about the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, I think chilling is the right word here, and this is a chill that's been in evidence even through all these ups and downs from the shipping industry. Even with this announcement of an opening of the Strait of Hormuz, these latest developments in the last hour will clearly amplify that further. But the shipping industry has been very wary, even as oil prices have come down, of increasing their shipping through. We've seen ships start to come through and then turn around. We've seen a few, as Nick mentioned, a cruise ship getting through, but that is sort of more of the exception rather than the rule at this moment. Prior to the war, it was over 130 ships that would pass through the Strait of Hormuz on a given day. Now we're hoping for sort of 20 on a given day, and we're not even there yet. So what I'm hearing a lot from the shipping industry is that this is going to be a long road back, even in a best case scenario here of a Strait of Hormuz, some sort of level of reopening. Obviously, the last couple hours have made that even more difficult, but this is going to be a long road back with hundreds and hundreds of ships still stuck on either side of the strait.
Yeah, those those vessels, and we can put the map back up, they're not moving on rhetoric, right? They need some proof. They need some security. The oil prices yesterday certainly moved on rhetoric. Brent crude down 9%, around $90 or so a barrel. I wonder, is the expectation that after what we saw today, that the inverse is going to happen?
Could be, yeah. We will. The oil prices, we won't know sort of how the oil prices move for a little bit, given it's the fact that it's the weekend. But the ships are simply not going to move until there's a lot more clarity on this. Another aspect of this that's important is that even this opening of the Strait of Hormuz from the Iranian side has been couched as towards the end of this ceasefire. That ceasefire is set to end on Wednesday, and even President Trump has talked in the last day about resuming bombing after that. So these shippers need a lot more certainty here about whether they can pass through, whether they can get the insurance to get through, and kind of increase the oil flows that were to pre-war levels. We're a long ways from that, and even if we see a lot of good developments in the last week, it's going to be weeks and weeks after that before we kind of see markets fully stabilize on this.
All right, Ben, let's talk gas prices. The president was in Nevada talking up the economy. By the way, $4.99 a gallon in Clark County. Nationally, the average this morning, according to AAA, is $4.06. Here's the president talking about the economy, his narrative on gas and the economy at large.
Well, they're not very high. If you look at what they were supposed to be in order to get rid of a nuclear weapon, with the danger that entails. In the report released last week, core inflation was down to the lowest level in 5 years, and very shortly we're going to be probably 8 or 9 years. Don't forget, we're having some fake inflation because of the fuel, the energy prices. We had the best economy in the history of our country in my first term, and we're blowing it out now. We're blowing it away now. And despite our little diversion to the lovely country of Iran.
Yeah, and the president also saying that, prices on gas are going to come falling down. The initial narrative from the White House was short-term pain for long-term gain. And now it sounds like it's shifted to what pain?
Yeah, and exactly. And I think that the price of coming down of gas is going to be a long-term process here. There's an economics terms called rockets and feathers, where prices at the pump shoot up like a rocket. I think everyone who's had to fill up their car in the last months has seen that aside, but then it comes down much more slowly, like a feather going down. That's been a problem for presidents for years, and Biden felt it almost exactly 4 years ago with the invasion of Ukraine, with high prices there. And I think we're going to be talking about that a lot all the way through the summer. There's new projections from Gas Buddy that talk about, the prices now are over $4 a gallon, but even early estimates there of a best case scenario, and I think the developments this morning cast further doubt on that, only $350 a gallon gas by the end of the summer. That's months and months away, 380 as the summer begins. So this is going to be, the projections are a very slow process down for gas prices if we're looking at the history here, and one that I think will be frustrating for the White House, hoping for this rapid fall, and I think frustrating for folks who are planning their summer travel as well.
All right, Ben Worshko, thanks so much.